one thing I'm very proud of. I mean, there's loads of things I'm proud of, probably the merch most of all. But people forget that before we started this little old company a while back, there was no proper A to Z even of the suppliers in there. Agents had a vague idea that there was loads of suppliers and PropTech out there, and we've at least brought it all into one place. We've categorized it, we've done it via solution. So if you're looking for the best sales progression outsourced operation there, you can go and have a good look. If you're looking for CRM, it's all in one place, and all wonderfully underpinned by the reviews part of the package, the platform, which keeps us honest, doesn't it?
So as an innovative company, we've created the yellow pages of PropTech.
Yeah. So am I saying now the print bill's gone through the roof?
Well, on that point though, I think, and this might hook into something that we talk about later, but peer reviews are so important to us as Kerfuffle, obviously, but it is also important to other agents so that they can get a benchmark of whether or not solutions working for you. And one of the most common questions we get asked by an agent is, can I talk to another agent that has used this solution? And what better way of sort of doing that than getting reviews together? So it's essential that agents get into the habit of leaving reviews. They don't all need to be good and they don't all need to be bad. They just need to be honest. And I think the value that delivers to the industry, not even to Kerfuffle, I must say, but just to your peers in the industry, there is nowhere else that they can turn to for this information all in one place. So as a free resource, take advantage of it.
And can I add to that even further? So there's one thing, the public reviews, there's the other reviews which we see behind the scenes, which obviously logged onto the agent dashboard, but it's quite strange that you'll see, supplier A scoring top marks on the public site, but actually when agents ask us about what the behind the scenes scores are, there's a variance because people may be nervous to leave a negative review, but they're not nervous to leave it on their own private dashboard.
It's a really good point, that, Rich, isn't it? We need to make people understand that a little bit better. Is that I still think there's massive value because everyone, we never have anonymized, reviews. So it's not like, the loonies on Property Industry Eye comments page. They'll go off and stand behind some sort of, some sign on. No, if you're going to say something positive, you're going to say something negative. You need to be able to obviously register and have that validated there. But what has been very clear, even with some quite well-known cases, I mean, famously there was Klub, which went through this industry like a bad case of COVID, really, and yet publicly there was never any. On social media, there was, because of course the story was there was quite a litigious thing going on there. Nobody would have ever known of that unless you were in the right groups, and I think that's something we've been very keen to make sure that doesn't happen with our platform. So from the get-go, to be able to have those public testimonials is great, but yes, underneath, every client has the ability, don't they, to build their own dashboards free of charge, absolutely free of charge, and put the suppliers that they use on a daily basis, both good and bad, in there. And they use it for a variety of sources, don't they? So they can upload their contracts. So rather than being lost in filing cabinets or email boxes or DocuSign, they can put them all in one place. They can put the costs in just to keep a nice, a nice simple tally of what they're spending on PropTech and different suppliers. And crucially, of course, helping them on the management side of things, they can put when those contracts are up for renewal so that they can genuinely, rather than it's on the day of renewal and they just have to sign up, they can take time and energy and make the best decisions, can't they, about those suppliers that they want to want to go forward with.
So I think there's 2 points from that. One point is the renewal date. What a lot of agents are now doing is a lot of suppliers are getting wise to, we don't want to tie people in for 5-year, 2-year contracts. But agents are also, historically, we may say, I'm going to try that for 3 months and see if it works. And all of a sudden, 18 months later, you're still paying for it and never reviewed it. So they're using the contract expiry date as essentially a review date for them to review that particular service or product, but they're doing it religiously. So they're doing it every 3 months. But going back to that secret NPS score, and we've got a video waiting, we're just checking out legally, ARPM, who obviously disappeared owing what seems to be millions of pounds of deposit monies, we have an agent on video ready to go live when we are prepared to risk hitting the button, where they phoned us 5 months before it publicly went into administration.
Yeah.
And asked us if we had any positive or negative reviews for it. The NPS score within the sort of the back of our system took a huge decline. There was lots of comments about struggling to get my tenants' deposits back, requesting the money back. It's taking 8 weeks. It always used to take 7 days. And based on that, we relayed it back to the agent, and we put him in contact with a couple of people who had left very, very negative internal reviews. And as a consequence, they made a decision not to outsource their property management. And obviously, famously, ARPM 4 months later just went pop.
And we should be quite popular there, shouldn't we? Really, I mean, being really honest, that's a proper canary in the cage warning system, that, isn't it?
And we can only do that the more and more agents who are prepared to put in their private NPS scores. We will clearly never share them with anybody else without permission, but we will anonymise them, and we will see trends.
It's really important, that, isn't it? We really need to get across to people that the success of this will not be down to, you know, us having the best pink merch out there. It is that community element there, and you get out what you put into this, don't you? And exactly right. If you can put this, if you put stuff in there, we'll be able to share it with you, and everyone wins on that basis. We will get rid of what, and we're lucky, aren't we? Hopefully there aren't too many rogue traders out there, but they can cause tremendous damage, can't they?
Yeah, but you know what? This has been an ongoing industry discussion, sort of behind closed doors, on different groups and different messages and so on. But this is a small industry. We do tend to share news. It tends to be the more negative news that is more like salacious gossip. People want to hear it. You cannot afford to form a business opinion around that kind of gossip. You've got to form your business position based on other people's NPS scores in terms of the way that they've been treated. And that filters through every single part of that service, really, whether it can be relied on. What it comes down to is trust. Yeah. And that's really the NPS scores. To be honest, we may as well just call them trust ratings, because that's really effectively trust and satisfaction are the biggest parts of it.
And what they also do, David, is they allow us to inform agents where there may be a slight risk, or what they're being told may not be completely correct. So again, I'm clearly not going to name them, but there's one supplier who promises to deliver the onboarding in a set period of time.
Yep.
What we know from our NPS scores is every single agent has said, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, onboarding was delayed by 8 weeks, onboarding was delayed by 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So at a point they're signing a contract, they're being told onboarding is going to be in 2 weeks' time. Yeah. We know that it's not. So what we're able to do is inform the agents to say, have an expectation that it's not going to be in 2 weeks' time. Alternatively, get something written into your contract to protect yourself. But if it's not in 2 weeks' time, there's an outcome, a positive outcome for you. And based on all of that sort of NPS stuff, we are able to advise agents correctly.
Yeah. And suddenly much more relevant, aren't we? So we started off obviously just wanting to get simple reviews in, but one of the lovely enhancements that I'm sure many people watching this won't know is one of the more recent additions just to the review process is we also ask people, who did you used to use previously, aka who have you upgraded to? Because as important as it is to know who your, how your next potential partner supplier is going to perform, it counts 10 times more if you know how they've actually managed the process of upgrading from the package that you're actually on, doesn't it? If you think about some of those complex things like CRM, website, email provision and nurturing there, those are really tricky onboarding processes, aren't they? So to have had somebody go through the same journey, walk in their shoes, is vital.
The key one at the moment that's doing the rounds is obviously Dupix is still, I think we're just under 6 months away from it disappearing altogether. And so there are still a lot of agents out there trying to choose their next CRM. And the most frequent question is, what's the data migration like? And the only real answer to that is to hear from an agent that has used the same system that you're on, migrated across to that new CRM, and how much work was involved, and whether they lost data along the way, and what the process was like. There's nothing that quite beats that.
Because here's the thing that would happen back to you, isn't it? If you were, when we were sat wonderfully in the good old days, and me sat opposite you, you know, you're talking to me, and of course, Simon, you do data conversion. Yeah, we do data conversion. Let's move on now. Let's move on. Because here's the thing: there's not a supplier in the industry that wouldn't say they don't have a data conversion process, do they?
Yeah.
But there is a spectrum of competence that is massive, isn't there? And it's not just in CRM, it's in all different sorts of areas. Are you bringing across the archive database? Are you bringing across calendar information? Are you bringing across brochures if it's, again, CRM? So there's a real, you know, what would you have done differently question to somebody who was on your package moving to this new one can save literally, you know, weeks and months of tears.
Yeah,
and I'm all about the tears. You know, we need a few negative shocks to do this. But let's look at a couple of positives there. So our job is, as we said, we do these wonderful MOTs where people can come talk about their existing tech stacks, which, as we always say, resemble a Jenga pile ready to fall over. And we talk about how we can hopefully improve the ones that are not in a good place, or of course, if we can't better the position, we'll give them alternative suppliers, or we'll tell them if they haven't got a solution for a particular problem in their business, what tools they might want to potentially review. And so, who's got, for me, a success story that they can share that we've, because of those MOTs that we've done, we've been able to help somebody out? And we don't have to name them, but it'd be nice if you can talk in a bit of detail.
We've got some recent ones, and this one comes from, I was going to call them a single branch independent, but that doesn't really do them justice. They are, you know, it's an extremely large and mature business. But one of the things that all businesses in the state agency tend to struggle with is lead management. We've always struggled with it. Yeah. We know that everybody deserves a response. That's the standard line. Everybody should get a prompt response. And if you talk to people like Peter Knight at the Property Academy about what response time is acceptable, I think what we've all understood is that you're meant to communicate back with the customer in the way that they communicated with you. So you get a text message, you send a text message back. You get an email, it's clear that they want a conversation on email, you should email them back. And that what frustrates customers very often is when they send you an email, but you choose to pick up the phone. Whether that might be more convenient for you, in actual fact, it's not what the customer wants.
Generation Z will look at that phone as if, who the hell do they think they are?
It feels silent, Simon, so I wouldn't hear it anyway.
It is a massive generational challenge as well. So I think what's key is that obviously what makes our lives as estate agents a lot easier is the implementing lead management systems, so that we don't have to physically respond to each and every one. Yep. And that we've got some sort of natural filtering process in there, because as Richard will tell you, not every tenant inquiry was created equal, not every vendor inquiry is created equal, and there is a massive disparity, isn't there? We hear this all the time. There's a massive disparity just amongst the portal inquiries themselves as to what the quality is for both separated out into sales and lettings, and then into the different constituent groups. So it's really essential that if you want your staff to sort of work cleverly, and you want your teams to be most efficient, they need to have a system that will automatically respond to people. And perhaps actually the basic word we're looking for is to triage the inquiries, and work out which of those actually need sort of your personal care and attention. So this little stat that I'm going to give you, this is coming from an agent that has implemented that, and previously they were going through the same processes that we all were for many years. You get in the morning, you check that inbox, and you start to divvy up all those, Rightmove inquiries, Zoopla inquiries, all the generic stuff that's also been put together by your own website. So there's a real mountain of inquiries, and that first part of the morning is always taken up with working out how many of those is Simon going to call back, how many are Richard going to call back, and also chasing actually that they've already done the ones from yesterday. So it's a massive kind of ongoing project, and we used to refer to it as air traffic control, because we used to have a lady, Gina, who sat in the office, and she would say, right, David, you've got 10 coming in now. Josh, you've got another 12. And this is what we had to do. Lead management systems take away all of that chore, really. And this particular agent has reported that they managed to sort of reduce the number of inquiries that they had to sort of physically deal with by a good 40%, but that actually led to them having their highest let numbers since basically coming back after COVID, which for a branch of their size is a ridiculous number of lets to get through. So it allows them to sort of laser focus on the inquiries that are going to result in business being written, which is superb in terms of ROI.
But also, because they've got an instant response, they're meeting people's expectations who they may not ordinarily call, because, out of the area, don't meet the affordability criteria, only leave a home number, probably aren't going to get a phone call back when they email info@estateagentoffice.com. No. Whereas what they're receiving on the leads management tools is that sort of autoresponder out, which could be a number of questions which would put them off potentially.
Yeah, and people have got to get it out of their heads as well that it's just the high street where their competitors are, that they're being judged against their literally local competition. Often you're being judged against other people, that are out there providing either a digital experience or whatever else. And so don't act surprised when you start getting 1-star, 2-star reviews if you've gone back to them 2 days later thinking how clever you are, when actually the expectation levels have gone through the roof now, haven't they, with what people perceive as needing to get a response to their inquiries. I mean, you're fine if you're competing with solicitors, I suppose, but that's one bad example.
That's just it. I think we are sort of judged by an SLA now that we as an industry have set remarkably high. That we want it to be the best experience and as smooth as possible. And most agents, when you tell them the amount of time that you think they should respond within, they'll shrug their shoulders and say, look, that's ridiculous. But the point we're trying to make here is that let the tech do the heavy lifting for you. We understand that it is impossible for you to respond to every inquiry personally within a set time frame. Make sure that you have something in place that at least the customer feels like you're getting back to them very, very quickly indeed.
Spot
on. So it does that consumer experience, doesn't it? Meeting the now world we live in. My experience of it is what it also does is allows the agent to have better conversations, because essentially you can filter down. So, going in a sales business, the conversation you have, David, with somebody who is a local house to sell, not on market, who wants to view a property, will start and finish very different than the conversation you're going to have somebody out of area, not on market, or out of area sold. But you have to prepare yourself for that.
Yeah.
It's quite not the worst job in the world, is it? Being able to recommend nice solutions like this that kind of work.
Well, another one which is interesting, I'll throw into the mix as well, because this probably forms one of the most common areas of concern for an agent.
Yeah.
So when we sit down, we do an MOT with somebody, we will always try. Yes, we'll gladly sit through your entire tech stack and we'll make a list of it all and try and get it in order. But very often we'll ask you, what are your 3 pain points at the moment?
Yeah.
And always, if you give an agent an option to fill those top 3 slots, it doesn't matter how big an agent they are, how successful they are, one of those 3 slots is always going to be taken up with generating valuations and instructions, and they want to know how they can increase conversion rate. So this is quite interesting. It's not a new solution by any means, but it is a tried and tested solution that has been really probably one of the stars of the post-COVID era. Over the past 2 or 3 years, it's seen some massive uptake. But Akaboom has, for this particular agent that installed it, on their sales side, they saw an instruction increase of about 26%. So an actual noticeable difference that they're converting more than they were previously. And that, again, is in a tough market where it's hard to secure those instructions. And the lettings, because you can also use it for lettings, so the letting side of the business saw a conversion rate of roughly speaking 85% valuation to instruction, which is, for the amount that they do, I can't stress enough, this is a huge win.
Yeah, I think I know the agent you're talking about, and look, the key thing here is that everyone always giggles about that whole trite line where, you know, you need one more instruction to pay for this. But because it was seen as so cheesy, people stopped using the ROI justification here. But we're talking, you know, we're talking a world of difference there, aren't we, to just winning one instruction? Those are fantastic figures.
Those are great figures, and let's face it, what defines you as an agent in a market where there's so much competition for that piece of business is how much those vendors or those landlords are actually going to remember you and your pitch by the time that they're finished and seeing everybody. Because don't forget, we're all experienced, we're all the most efficient agents you'll ever meet, and we're all the best value for money. Those messages are going to be constant, but if you want to stay in front of those people, and you need to have a very thorough pre-valuation process, but also the follow-up is super important. In fact, if I was listening correctly to another podcast, but I think Martin Baum, when he's training people, he says that they need to split that job into thirds, so that you spend a third of the time before evaluation, a third of the time in the room, and then a third of the time following up on the instruction. Akaboom is one of those things that, again, takes the heavy lifting out of the before and after, and you get to concentrate on your pitch in the room, which, you know, I think is invaluable.
2 points on that, David. One is, I heard from somebody last week the fortunes in the follow-up.
Yeah.
And
that's a lovely. Oh.
Yeah, I'll claim it as my own. I came up with the fortunes in the follow-up.
We should do a T-shirt with that in. Rich's phase, fortunes in the follow-up.
Love it.
But also on that, and whether it's Akaboom or whether it's similar products, it's also about how much effort and time the agent's prepared to put into the material they're prepared to put out. So again, speaking to agents, we know what's working, what's not working. Clearly, lots of stuff is confidential, but I know of an agent who's used Akaboom, and what they've created is a series of documents within their valuation form around processes. So, for argument's sake, what to do if your tenant falls in arrear, how to serve a Section 8, all of this stuff. But obviously, they're getting notifications through. Now, nobody's opening a document on Section 8 unless they've got a tenant in arrears, not paying the rent, who they need to evict. So all of a sudden, the agent's getting notifications. At times, it's probably a good idea to be contacting that landlord. You know, and you could do the same in sales, couldn't you? What happens at the end of your sole agency agreement? What happens if I haven't sold after my 12-week, whatever it may be? They've got to spend as much time developing the content as they do on the living room sofa.
Spot on, absolutely perfect.